This is Let's Talk Big, the big read with Jane Berger and Jen Hazel. The Owens Community College Campus Big Read is taking place now and throughout the semester, with the goal of bringing awareness of different perspectives through books. The Campus Read book is A Little Less Broken, How an Autism Diagnosis Finally Made Me Whole by Marian Schembari. It's the story of one woman's decades-long journey to a diagnosis of autism and the barriers that keep too many neurodivergent people from knowing their true selves. Now, sharing passages, topics, and events related to the book are Director of Library Services, Jane Berger, and Professor of English, Jen Hazel.
Welcome to Let's Talk Big. I'm Jen Hazel, and I have with me Jane Berger and Alex Burkhardt. Alex, welcome.
Hi, yeah, it's good to be on here.
Thanks for making time.
No problem.
Alex is a student, if I did not say that before. So now, let's dive in. Jane, passage?
Passage, got one.
All right.
We're still smack in the middle of the book. My go-to option was to quit, but I hesitated this time. What would I do afterwards? Get another office job? I'd blown through 12 and 5 years. I knew the solution did not lie in more of the same. Around the world, countless undiagnosed autistic people experience similar challenges, chronically underemployed, unable to manage a standard day's work, and lectured for behaviors that they don't understand. Like Janara Narenberg, a graduate of Harvard, MIT, and UC Berkeley. In her mid-20s, Janara was fired from one of her first journalism jobs. After a bout of freelancing, she tried again at a startup, but was fired after 6 months. A year later, she took a low-paying job in a more arts-oriented organization, but again was fired after a month. Janara later learned that she was both autistic and had ADHD. In her book, Divergent Minds, she wrote, "The hardest part throughout the trials of these various jobs was the overwhelming sense of loss, confusion, loneliness, and uselessness that I felt. I had zero vocabulary about neurodivergence, and no one else around me had that vocabulary either." Writer and photographer Kay Lomas also struggled to stay employed before her autism diagnosis. She couldn't understand why work always felt so challenging and would chastise herself for never sticking with a job. "Although I started a new position with hope and expectation that this job would be okay, sooner or later I would start to get that feeling again, like I wasn't fitting in, or this company or this environment just wasn't for me." She tried to hold out as long as she could, but never made it longer than a year. "I once started a job and left after only 2 days," she wrote in a blog post for The Mighty. "The office was chaotic, noisy, disorganized, and the social expectations on staff were high for the after-work drinks, weekly events, and social social functions." This just struck me funny. Like, it's not worth any of the drinks afterwards. I don't care how much we'll treat you to a round, and that ought to make everything that's miserable from 9 to 5 be okay.
Right, because you had a round afterwards.
Yes, exactly. I'm sorry. It struck me very funny. Oh, Lordy.
Thoughts?
Yeah, no, the first time that I read this passage, I definitely understood where she was coming from, not from the fact that, I have autism or anything like that, but just from the fact of that struggle that I've heard other people with autism talking about, especially in the modern day age, what with the fact that, the job market being what as it is, and even then, even in the modern age, when people are struggling to get work, even when companies say that they're struggling to get workers, they still don't give the resources that people with autism and people with just like neurodivergent people in general require in just being able to actually function in the workplace. It being tidy, it having it not being too overstimulating, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Just I feel as though the workplace is still, even when they say that they need workers or a more diverse range of workers, or at least used to, they just still don't provide the resources that those type of people need.
I had a student worker for a couple semesters, probably 3 or 4 semesters. Anyway, I don't know if she was neurodivergent at all, but came and asked if she could wear noise-canceling headphones. Now, her job is to sit at the front desk and greet people, answer phones, that sort of thing. And I had to think about it for a minute. I'm like, okay, she's going to walk in, people are going to see this. I said, okay, how is it? I said, yes, you can. I said, could you keep one kind of partway off so if the phone rings, you'd be able to answer it? Yeah, she says, I can try that. I said, well, try that. And if that works, great. If not, then, go ahead. But I couldn't imagine telling her no after I really kind of thought about why would she be asking me this if this wasn't something. And we work in a library, so it's already pretty quiet. But and it may have just been for her comfort level, not even knowing what the noise was going to be, but just, I need this just in case. But can you imagine somebody being told? Yeah, no. Mm-mm.
Well, sometimes from my understanding, it isn't necessarily about the noise, it's about all the happenings.
Oh.
So thinking that there's a lot of things going on, it's like your way of filtering out one of those items. So it would be like saying, I'm overwhelmed because of the lights, because of people coming to ask questions.
I didn't even think about that.
And then would be noise. And so that would be one thing that might be going on why someone asks.
Could
it isn't
be.
because it sounds like it's
'cause
loud.
I'm in a library.
Right. But again, this is more of really what we try to dive in and talk about is that,
Always learning.
right, that there's other reasons
Yeah.
as to why. I think going back to Alex's point that I think is really interesting is, but we're not seeing some of those items. And one of them that I think about a lot is we had book club one time, and someone was talking about how they work with someone who, a student work with someone who has autism, and he really, really struggles when it's his turn to clean the bathroom. And she was like, what do you guys think might be going on, or what might be the issue? Well, I asked if they had hand dryers, and she said yes. And I said, that's probably it. So when you're in a bathroom, and they were not like you push the button. They just kind of, you get near it and it goes off. Because I asked that specifically, how does it work? And I said, probably what happens is, I said, when you're in there, do they just kind of go off sometimes as you're cleaning? And she said yes. And I said, so I was explaining what happens only from my experience with my son and how much he detests hand dryers. And she was like, oh my gosh, I'm always going to take the bathroom for him then every time, because she's like, it's no big deal for me to go in there and clean the bathroom and a hand dryer to go off, but it's really upsetting for someone else. And thinking about it, do we need to have hand dryers? I mean, we need people to be able to dry their hands, right? But do they need to be hand
I,
dryers?
for one, would be very happy if they went away.
Right? Because not only in addition to it being disruptive for some people, for example, it also spreads more germs, I've heard.
Yeah, that's what I've read too.
So
Not
I'm
about
kind of
that.
but thinking about it, that's an easy one. Let's get rid of all the hand dryers and actually use,
The
paper towels
again.
And if we sat here and thought about it a little more, there might be some other really, okay, I don't want to say that's easy because that might not be, but there's
But you
some
know
other
what?
adjustments that could be made.
But what if we had one or two bathrooms in every building that didn't have the hand
Oh,
dryers?
that's a good, we don't have the hand dryer,
If that bothers you, then you can use the ones that are located in this area.
Well, you could even make them double duty in saying how we have a lot of they call them family restrooms,
Yes.
but it's also for individuals who are.
The gender neutral bathroom.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
Yep.
And I mean, sometimes they're family, sometimes they're gender
right,
neutral,
yeah.
depending on what they are.
Right.
What if we made those bathrooms,
Right, also without the.
right, and be like, this is also.
Okay, make a
very
note,
different.
because that's something we need to talk about.
I know,
with our,
right?
With our facilities.
I know,
Sorry.
now reaching out and thinking
I
about that,
know.
be like, hey. But no, that's actually something too. And I
Yeah.
mean, thinking about it, and you're right, Alex, it's what is it we're asking people to work, but are we really willing
Right.
to help meet people where they are all
Yeah,
the
it's
time?
not that they don't want to work, it's that there are certain things that make it very difficult for them to work, that we don't think about.
Well, and
Right.
even in this passage too, it talks about the job, having multiple jobs, and because it's hard to keep one if it's just there's a few things that really are hard for you that if we just made some adjustments with that.
Well, how many places now have just the cubicles, like the little cubbies where the noise from everywhere is always coming
just
in.
something right in the middle of it.
Yeah, right. And something as simple as, okay, we do have an office that has a door that you can kind of close that off. Would that be better for
and
you?
even when I did work with someone once who, even being in an office, they had ADHD. It was they could leave the door open, but the noise was only in front, not all the way around every side, and so it became more doable.
Yeah.
With that. So I think there's some really important things to think about within that passage.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, but we cannot talk any more about it. We're going to wrap it up for today, which makes
Love
us
your
sad.
insight. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. That was great
Yeah,
to
yeah.
even think about. So on behalf of myself, Jane Berger, and Alex, keep talking big.
This has been Let's Talk Big. Catch Let's Talk Big anytime on the RSS feed or the Owens Outcome Plus YouTube channel. Be sure to like and subscribe. Join us again for Let's Talk Big, the big read with Jane Berger and Jen Hazel.